got the President of UFO Research New South Wales in Sydney online, Mariana Flynn, and she's been the president for 6 years now of that organisation. Just a bit of background about Mariana. She's done 2 years of parapsychology training. She has a diploma in clinical hypnotherapy, has NLP trained, and also done extra hypnotherapy training in Queensland too. Now, the background with Mariana is she's also done past life regression training with the Michael Newton Institute, Dolores Cannon's quantum healing training. She's always had an interest in consciousness, expanding her mind, and brings all of that interest to the UFO subject in that organisation. So would you please give her a welcome? Welcome, Mariana. Thank you for taking the time to Skype in tonight and tell us, share the information that you're going to. You're going to talk to us about some of the cases that you've been looking into recently.
Thanks for inviting me, Sheryl.
You're welcome.
Well, we've got I tried to pick a few out today, just a mixture. I've got some with paranormal aspects, I've got some that are pure sightings, UFO sightings, and then there's a couple or 3 or 4 actual close encounters.
Right. Well,
so
take it away.
Okay.
Yes.
So please excuse me if I read some of them, because it's in the person's own words, yes, and it makes it more real if I can tell you how they expressed it to us.
Yes. If
that's okay. I won't read all of them, but I'll read some of them. Shall I fire away?
Yes, fire away. Shoot, we're all ears.
Okay. Well, there was a report submitted in April 2016 from Kempsey in New South Wales, a sighting of a cigar and saucer-shaped UFO. So the report was from a police officer who lives on a property close to the beach at Kempsey. And he submitted the following reports via telephone. 20 years ago, his wife was in bed when she saw a metallic silver cigar-shaped object pass by the veranda of the house at Kempsey. There are large windows in the house, so the object could be viewed through the windows. The object was approximately 30 meters long with a circumference of about 20 meters. And it flew approximately 6 meters above the veranda and made no noise. He saw it when his wife called out to him. And by then it was 45 meters above the house and it took off at high speed. His first sighting occurred 35 years ago. He and his neighbors were having a barbecue on the sand near his house at Kempsey when a UFO flew over, and it was about 7 p.m. in the evening. The circular UFO with a row of lights surrounding its perimeter flew over the barbecue and then over the house. One of the neighbors screamed. It almost hit the roof. The UFO made no noise and was observed by about 40 people. It continued flying in a haphazard way at high speed between Crescent Head and Hat Head, disappearing from sight into a swampy area. The next day, he and his friends went to look at the crash landing site, and they saw a group of yellow-suited men working at the site. There was a 15-meter diameter burnt circular area in the grass. The yellow-suited men said it was due to a dieldrin spill, which they knew to be a lie. The men dug up that area to 0.5 meter deep. Afterwards, people did not talk about the sighting because they were afraid of being ridiculed. Where the burnt circle was located, nothing grows to this day. Even now, no one wants to talk about it.
And how long ago was that?
That was in 1996.
Oh, okay. And the first...
So second... Pardon?
Sorry, the first report was the long cylinder-shaped object.
The long cylinder was 96. I think the other one was 1981.
Okay, yeah.
The circular object. So that was quite interesting. But his wife didn't really want him to talk about it, so he rang in secret and said afterwards, don't mention to my wife, I told you.
Do you find that comes up much? Does that happen much?
Pardon?
Does that happen much?
Sometimes people wait for 20 years to speak about it.
Yes.
we get a few quite old cases reported, and they've waited and waited until, I suppose, they are just bursting to tell someone.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah. Now, this one was a UFO sighting, which was quite interesting, near Broken Hill. So quite a kind of remote area of New South Wales. Now, when was this reported? Well, the sighting was in the 70s, so this is another very old sighting. Paul was travelling near Broken Hill. He's a seaman in the Navy, and he never expected the following to happen. He was driving along in his combi, and there was a bed in the back, and his boat was on the top, on the roof rack. Along the way, he had picked up two hitchhikers near Kalgoorlie. Oh, okay. He dropped one of them off at Port Pirie and was driving all night when he saw a red light, like a star, near Broken Hill. Suddenly, it appeared 10 metres over his car. It made no sound and was a red-orange light shining from it into the combi, illuminating the whole inside of the car. And the car engine then stopped by itself. And he began to feel really afraid, and he thought he was in danger. The hitchhiker in the back of the car was fast asleep and was unable to be woken. So he dragged him out of the car, and he managed to take 2 rifles out of the car because he planned to shoot at the UFO.
Good luck.
Suddenly, as he was trying to do so, not very soon, as he was trying to do so, suddenly everything went blank. The red light dulled off, and he could no longer distinguish the object. He continued towards Sydney driving, and he dropped the hitchhiker off, and not once did they talk about what had occurred. And he still does not know how he got back into the car after getting out with the rifles. He still doesn't know. Years later, he said, he saw a similar red light near his house. What surprised him was that he and the hitchhiker had had breakfast and continued all the way to Sydney, and yet they didn't speak about the occurrence.
And that comes up quite a bit, doesn't it? That people unexpectedly, they look back and they go, I don't know why we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Here was a very interesting sighting we had from the entrance near Gosford. And this was another one, an older sighting in 1995. So Warwick is an ex-soldier who now works for the government, and he has a master's degree in technology. So he feels he's a trained witness, and he knows what he saw. He and a friend were looking out over the water at the entrance one afternoon, when the sky above them seemed to change, and a large craft just suddenly popped into their vision, as if popping in from another dimension. They said it looked like a pyramid on its side. It came to a dead stop and just sat there over the water in front of them. The hair rose on the back of his neck, and he felt eerie and weird. And it was silent, and they could only just make it out because it was cloaked, somewhat cloaked, but the edges were sharp. He was convinced the technology of this ship was beyond ours. He didn't feel it was certainly an Earth-based ship. They felt defenseless and afraid, so they watched it for 5 minutes, and by then they were really freaked out, so they ran to their car to drive off, but the object still remained in the same position. So that's a daytime sighting, which was, I thought, quite interesting. Now, oh, this was a funny one. Right. A woman rang me. This was 2015 from Tamworth, which is, I think, is that northern New South Wales? I think so.
I think so.
I'm not really sure where it is. She was walking past the regional offices, council offices in Peel Street, which is the main street of Tamworth, when she noticed 2 men standing very close together with their noses almost touching. They had glassy eyes, bigger than normal, and the eyes extended further around the face than you'd expect a human eyes to do. And as she passed them, she heard a grunting sort of language. And they were well dressed and otherwise looked normal. Now what was interesting, she said, is a month later, she was walking past exactly the same spot in Tamworth with her mother. And she saw exactly the same thing, but this time they were two different individuals, but again, they were strange, creepy people, and that the eyes were larger than normal, and they communicated in a grunting language. And as they passed one of them, this person turned towards them, and they noticed the scary eyes. And that's what she said. She was quite nonplussed by that.
And those bizarre sort of reports like that, you know, I've noticed they come up every now and then too, and you think, what on earth is that about, you know?
What is that about?
Yeah, I don't know.
I know, it's hard to explain.
Yes.
I mean, I had some funny comments from various people as to what that could be, but I won't repeat that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, here was one. Right, now these were odd objects, very unusual objects. It took place probably almost 30 years ago. He's only just reported it to us this year in November. Tony was in his mid-20s and with his nephew and a mate, and they were rally driving near Cessnock, which is in the Hunter Valley. And they travelled up to the top of Ashley Towers, which was a lookout point. They stopped to look out over the valley below, and they saw 6 dark circles shimmering and hovering just above the ground. They punched each other because they couldn't believe what they were seeing. One of the circles started to move off to the left. It was a dirty brown colour, and it flew up to eye level about 1,000 metres from them. They could see it very clearly, every detail. It was shaped like a walnut with a band through the middle, as if joining the two halves together. And on the outside of the object, there was a lot of steel pipework, which was unusual. So Tony had done military training in that area when he was 18, so he knew it well. He felt the object was American. Now, I don't know why he said that, but he felt it was American for some reason because of the pipework. He even mentioned to me that was it some sort of nuclear technology which needed water cooling? Look, I don't know. I'm just repeating what he said. Yeah. There was a whirring sound, like an electronic motor. It flew past the 3 of them, between Ashley Tower and the mountains, and then over a dairy farm. Tony had taken his eye off the other objects, but his nephew told him that they took off at great speed up into the sky. So that was quite interesting.
And you've got some close encounter cases you've been working with too, have you? I just have to watch the time, Mariana.
Yeah, now you watch the time and you tell me.
Got 10 minutes left for you, sorry.
Have we? Okay. All right, well, let's have a look. Right, this was an interesting one from northern New South Wales. I cannot identify the area because I need to keep the woman confidential, her report. We'll call her Violet. 7 or more years ago, Violet had been to the shops in a town 30 kilometres away from her home. On her return journey, she arrived home 2 hours later than expected, and she does not remember driving at night. A few years ago, while living on a rural property, she saw a boomerang-shaped craft appear out of a cloud. There were no lights visible, and it was a dull black colour. It flew really low, and she could see panels on it, and it made no noise and took off really fast. She always looks at the sky, and her family used to tease her about little green men. This is not really, it's not coming out with the close encounters, but she is a contactee, and she's had some very close, I'll tell you about another one. So she saw some really close UFOs. Here's one, a report from a woman who's 48 years old. 2 years ago at night, she saw small beings with barreled normal things. Pardon?
Hey, I'm just lost your image.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening there. Just keep talking anyway.
All right, I'll keep talking. Fine. So, all right, she saw barrel torso beings in her room. She and her children have seen paranormal things all the time, as does her mother. Her mother showed her some unusual scratches on her arm, and she didn't know how they came about. So she's not afraid of these beings. Sometimes she notices an arm extending towards her forehead with 3 sausage-like fingers, and she immediately goes to sleep. She has received triangular markings on her hip and the inside of her arm, and also bruises. Now that kind of triangular mark I've had from several people, that report.
Yes.
Like red dots and inside a bruise. And it's usually on the arm or on the leg, on the thigh.
Yeah.
As a child, she drew beings with large heads, and these were her favourite pictures. She used to have nightmares about large eyes and about falling. The being she sees has a round pumpkin-like head and long, thin arms with 3 flat fingers. She feels no fear, and as a child, she had invisible friends. Sometimes, as she falls asleep, she feels an electrifying energy go down her spine. Then she receives downloads of various hieroglyphs, pages and pages of information downloaded into her mind. At those times, she feels she has no top on her head, as if it's been opened up, and as if she's having a brain orgasm. That was her description.
Wow.
It was a very pleasant experience. 2 months ago, she saw a bronze pumpkin figure upside down with 3 long tentacles floating in the air. It looked like a plasma creature. She has felt eerie things in her room and has asked them to leave, and her children are also psychic and very sensitive.
Very strange, isn't it? That this is what people report, isn't it?
It's very strange, yeah.
Yeah.
Mariana, how are we going to...
yeah, you're right. I might just, might just matter. Keep going. Just we've lost your image. I don't know where it went. Have you got? Can you just check that your video's on? Just down the bottom there.
Let me have a look.
Oh, there you are. You're back.
That happened.
Don't know what.
Touch anything.
No, weird. Go on.
Okay, now, one day I had a Skype conversation with a fellow way down south in Tanger, New South Wales. I mean, I had never heard of Tanger. I had to go and look it up. So, very interesting report, because there were actually beings on the craft. We don't often get a report where you see he saw individual beings. Is my camera all right?
Yes, you're on.
You see him?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a story from the 1990s. It happened in a small town called Tanger in the south coast of New South Wales. It was a lovely, clear day, and I was with my partner and my mother feeling relaxed. I happened to glance out of the window to my left, facing Bermagui Road, and over the paddocks towards the tree line. I could see something coming into view, not really believing what I was seeing. I tried to get my family to look out of the window, but they weren't interested at all. So I charged outside, jumped the fence, and ran as close as I dared and watched the most amazing thing I've ever seen. A great big shiny silver spaceship the size of a football field going as slow as a 4-wheel drive in low gear. It had a green glow and the windows around the outside. It was 50 meters or so above me and just above the trees. Looking out of the windows was a group of people, not human, in a line. I'm guessing they were different ages. There were little ones, between 2 larger ones, maybe a family. Some really tall and skinny with triangular heads and big black eyes. The craft stopped, I don't know for how long, and we looked at each other for what seemed like forever. I stopped jumping up and down and waved like an idiot, thinking I was going to be taken away. Some of them waved, and seconds later it took off that quickly I could not believe it. The trees did not move when the UFO passed only meters above them. It did not go into space as I thought it would, and it went straight ahead and then looked as if it went down into the sea, somewhere behind the trees. So he said there were lots of witnesses who saw that particular UFO, but it goes on. Now, he's had some very unusual experiences. He had very strange dreams, and at one time, he had a dream about 10 years ago where he was lying on an operating table being held down by something which felt like glag wrap. He couldn't move, nor talk, nor scream. There was one alien standing near my feet and one by my side. I could hear them speaking in a cranky sort of way, making clicking sounds. There were things being stuck up my bottom, and the last thing I remember was a thing coming towards my face with needles. The needles were heading for my eyes and I passed out. I am sure there is a lot more hidden in my mind which I would love to get out. I did get one brief look at one of the aliens, and it looked like the aliens in Abe's Odyssey. Do you know what Abe's Odyssey is?
No, I don't. Does anyone here know what that is? Yeah? A video game. There you go.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It had long, skinny arms and a long face with something covering its face. I could see its eyes, and they were oval, but not much, but quite a lot bigger than ours. There was no nose except for 2 dots, and no hair, and the skin was pale. It did not look like the ones I saw in the UFO. So that's quite interesting. And he says he never tells his family anything because it's such a touchy subject. And he lives in a small community, so he can't tell anyone because he fears they will ridicule him.
And I think when the people can't tell their families, it creates such stress for them, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does.
Yeah.
And I mean, while I was talking to him on Skype, his 12-year-old daughter was sitting in the background, and he said to her, "Do you want to speak?" Well, she was terribly shy, but she managed to say she'd seen ghosts and she'd had invisible friends as a child as well. And then once when she was 4 years old, she climbed into bed with him and said, "Daddy, there are ghosts in my room."
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can I just stop you there and just, has anyone here got any questions about any of those for Mariana? We've only got a couple more minutes with her. No? Okay. Right, keep going. Another 2 minutes.
Yeah, that was interesting. I thought that was quite intriguing.
I think what I'm noticing is that the types of reports that you're talking about are very common with the reports that we receive from people.
Interesting.
Yeah, so...
Yes. And you know what I find intriguing too, and I don't know if you've had this happen. I had a fellow once report to me a strange object on the wall in his room, and I wanted to run this past you. The object was a spider, but it looked metallic, and it had more legs than a normal spider should have. And it was much larger, plate size, so it was sitting on the wall, and he was sitting on his bed looking at this thing, feeling really creeped out. What happened then was this object jumped onto the floor and ran under the bed. And so when he could pluck up the courage, he shone the torch under the bed, but there were no marks in the dust. You would expect there was a lot of dust under the bed. And it was funny that about the same time, I received an email from someone in which they talked about surveillance objects used by military and other groups, which were like metallic objects, like a spider or something, insect or something. Yeah. You heard of anything like that?
I have actually. There was a woman I spoke to earlier this year who talked about laying in bed, and I may have told people here, I'm not sure, laying in bed and waking up one night. No, she wasn't asleep, that's right, she was just laying in bed, and this rectangular shape appeared above her while she was laying there, and she could see someone, it was like a window that appeared, and it, out of nowhere, just hanging in the air, and there was someone on the other side of it, and they were looking through it at her, and this person was wearing like a lab coat and glasses. He was human, and the next thing she knows, she feels something on her pillow next to her, and she could feel the weight of it, and she turned and looked at it, and it was actually a metallic spider.
Wow!
So I don't. That's interesting. Yeah, isn't that interesting? The common theme there, and I don't know what that means.
Yes.
Doesn't mean it's a spider, of course.
Well, yeah. I mean, fascinating, isn't it? That you've had the same kind of report.
Yeah.
And the triangles with dots, I mean, I've had that a few times. But do you get a lot of paranormal experiences alongside ET experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. All forever, as long as I've been involved in this since '88, the reports that come in have they're just entwined with paranormal experiences and bizarre experiences, like seeing spiders and what does that mean? You know, or there was, you mentioned before, someone felt like they were wrapped with glad wrap. But I had someone who said that this that Barry and I interviewed earlier this year, where this hole seemed to appear in the room, and out of it, like a portal I guess, but out of it came these beings and they wrapped him up just like that, like from head to toe, and then he was sucked in through this tunnel. So what is that? You know, it's bizarre.
What is that?
Yes.
Well, you know, another thing is those shadow entities in the corner of the room. I was regressing a client one day, and she was telling me she always saw a sort of tall shadow figure in the corner with a low pull-down hat and a trench coat, which is a typical character. And so during the regression, we were actually able to go and look in his face, because one can do that. She'd never done that before because she was a bit spooked. She didn't know what she was going to find. And what she saw was really unexpected. It was a reptilian. And so she said it also had a very powerful tail and red eyes. And so she communicated with it and asked it what on earth it was doing there. And it said its species, the planet it lived on, was dying, and they were looking for a new planet to live on. And she felt she had been, against her will, had been co-opted into working with this particular individual. So,
very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Actually, I had a call from a woman from Western Australia yesterday, and she's been having a lot of, she reported she's been having a lot of problems with reptilians, and I think she's actually got post-traumatic stress perhaps, but and I don't hear those. She asked me how common are reports about reptilians, and I said not that common, but they're around.
Yeah, there's sometimes.
And she said, well, I'm having a lot of problems, so there's more to that story. But look, I have to wind you up now, so thank you very much for joining us, and it's nice to hear what's being reported to you down in Sydney, and and there's a lot of common features in all those reports that I receive here too. Yeah. So thank you very much, Mariana. Would you please welcome Mariana?
Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.